Nestled in a town covered by fluffy snow, Yael, a child born of parents from diverse worlds, was playing in the attic of her house. Hello everyone, this is Yael, and today we will talk about the launch of my children's book. Yes, I wrote a book, Yael's Whimsical Quest, Heritage Uncovered. One day I woke up, and since I tend to remember the dreams of the night before, I was still thinking about the dream that I had. Just as usual, you remember a few snippets, colors, maybe some sensations like smell, a light. I wrote it down and kept thinking about how to develop it, how to keep dreaming about it, and to make it into a story that could be narrated. First came the concept, followed by a couple of scenes. One in particular, I could see this little girl in front of a waterfall in an enchanted forest. And this is how Yael's Whimsical Quest came to be. It took me a while to decide the names of my little characters. And Yael, as you might notice, sounds just like my name because it's another name coming from Hebrew. And I chose it for my protagonist because a few years back, when I was in Dublin, I met a girl who had that name. She was Spanish, and I thought, if I were to choose my name and Yael wasn't available, I would choose Yael because it sounds just as melodic, of course, because of the sequence of the vowels. And it's even easier to pronounce than Yael because of the absence of the sound R. And also the H, which was my problem when I was growing up in Italy. The other kids had no idea how to pronounce the letter H, being Italian. And so I decided when I was very young that my name would be pronounced Yael and not Rahel. And that's how I want to be called. So in a way, Yael is a simplified version of my own name. And so I thought that would be the perfect name for a protagonist in a book. Straight out of my fantasy, of my imagination, there is this little girl that has something in common with me, but not all. She has different chances, different experiences, but a very similar upbringing. It's the story of this little girl who lives in a magical world where things can be different from ours and new opportunities, new adventures can happen, can be. A little fun fact, if you want, is that until maybe a couple weeks ago, the second main character, which is an owl, was called Orion. And as soon as I saw that on Netflix, there was a new movie by DreamWorks called Orion and the Dark, in which the protagonist was called Orion, I thought, no, that really doesn't sound right, because if I am to publish this book around the same time, it's not a coincidence anymore. It's as if I had inspiration by that movie, but I didn't. So in a way, I feel like they stole my owl's name. And so I decided to call him Opal instead, because when I was a child, we used to go to this store where they were selling gems and stones. And that's where I first saw an opal. And that really caught my eye because of all the colors inside of it and all the possibilities inside of one stone only. How diverse it can be, and yet it's one stone. It represents magic to me, but also this alternate world where Yael and Opal can go and happen to find themselves in a way. And in this world, an owl can talk to you and you can understand him. Opal and Yael are transported into a new world in this short story, which is meant for children, because I wish I had that kind of book on my shelves when I was a kid. In this children's book, I decided to talk about language, of course in a very simple way, but without naming any language. So there is this foreign language that our main characters cannot understand. And that's the reason, one of the reasons why they embark on this journey. But I decided not to give it a name so that other kids can relate to this story, even if it's not exactly as my own story and my own childhood. So that if they come from Ghana or Nigeria or from Kenya, they can see their own native language in there, or the language that their grandmother and grandfather used to speak and maybe are not speaking anymore, or the language that they used to speak to each other but that they don't use with their grandchildren, for instance. And so it sounds familiar, but the children cannot understand it. And so this really can apply to so many minority languages and endangered languages in Africa. This is also why I kept it quite generic. The setting is in an African town without a name, again, to let kids relate to this story. I don't want to spoil it because it's a very short story, simple but meaningful. I decided to self-publish this book as an ebook and as a digital book only, for now at least, because I thought maybe it's easier to get, even if you don't have a bookstore nearby, or if you live far away but still you have internet access, which is something that I noticed in Africa actually. So it's easier for people to have a smartphone and to directly download a little book like this on their smartphone or on their Kindle, Kobo, e-readers in general, or even on their laptop, tablet, if they have it. So in a way I thought it would be easier for people to get it and to read it to their children, if their children are not used to read, or if the children's level of English is not high enough, maybe the parents can read it to them. And another reason why I chose to write this story as a book for children specifically is because when I was growing up, I remember my mother sitting on a stool right between the two rooms where we were sleeping, and that is a very fond memory. Even when I was a teenager or a young adult, I remember reading books to the children I was babysitting, and that was my favorite activity, to sit all quietly or to have them in their beds ready for bedtime, which would coincide with reading time. So I really love that. And so that's another reason. I am imagining this story as a story told by parents and read by parents to their children. Maybe I will also make it into an audiobook. Let's see how people appreciate it, and maybe at some point I will also make an Italian version of it. If you watched my video about the struggles of being mixed, maybe I will link it up here, you may already know what I went through. But even if you haven't watched it, I think you will find this book a fun and nice way to approach this kind of trauma, because in the book there is a solution to this trauma, there is a way to move on. I included contrasting settings too, because I wanted to give this feeling of What does it feel to be mixed? Because contrast is part of your being. You cannot escape it. So it's really a constant battle, and it's unsettling. So having different settings here in which you have this contrast of the temperature in one location compared to the other, they're quite opposite. That was my way of transmitting this kind of feeling of contrast and battle within. Finally, I decided to publish this book this month because it's Black History Month. I had a negative experience related to Black History Month, and this is my little revenge, so that in this book I can express myself and my discomfort and what it means to be black and or mixed, as in my case, because I am fully black, fully white. Even though usually when I introduce myself and people ask questions, I tend to say half Italian, half Ethiopian, because it's easier. People don't understand it otherwise. So by publishing this children's book in February, I am part of this celebration of diversity, specifically when talking about Black people. And the subtitle is Heritage Uncovered, because in my case, we're talking about Black heritage more than growing up Black, if you get what I mean, or if you watched my video, you know what I mean. It's a positive reaction to all the negativity that came with the fact that I'm half and half, or fully black, fully white. So I will link all the details about the book, where you can find it. So I've been working on this book for so long now. It's been months, because I kept thinking about it and then drafting, rewriting, editing, and so on. So it's been a while. In a way, it's my little baby. So I really care for it. And I hope you will appreciate it and you will enjoy it. You or your children. It's not meant for Black people only. It's meant for children, no matter where they are, who they are. I cannot wait to hear your opinions. So if you bought it and read it, please let me know down below. Write a review if you feel like it. It will be very much appreciated. I poured myself and my experiences into this short story, and so I really hope you will like it. If you support me on Ko-fi, you will be able to download the illustrations of the book and print them out. Please write a comment down below. Like this video if you liked it. And I will see you in the next one.